Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news for another 8 o'clock show, and it's certainly going to be a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be, and it was going to be very interesting. So we've got a Glazer update. They're disappointed and have stalled the sale. We've also got a new deal coming in for Jonny Evans, which would be a transfer blow for Harry Maguire, plus stories on Amrabat and a couple of other things as well. But we're going to start off talking about the Glazers. Very interesting story that's sort of come out in the last few minutes, and effectively it sort of gives an insight into the situation on why the sale hasn't happened, because ultimately the Glazers are disappointed and see a way of staying and getting more money. It does feel like that for the last few weeks, doesn't it? That they've sort of tried to pretend that the club isn't up for sale. Guess what? We're not leaving. So we'll talk about that, of course, and we'll talk about this Jonny Evans new deal. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What does it mean for Harry Maguire? We'll talk about that and a lot of other things as well. Oil me up, says Stuart. Well, I can't oil you up, but I can boohoo man you up. And I'm wearing my Boohoo Man clobber, as you can see here. Yes, it's Boohoo Man night. We're sponsored by Boohoo Man. Fantastic clothing lines, whether it's down the gym, five-a-side, relaxing in your living room, going for a walk, wearing a coat, going on holiday. They've got you covered, and you can get 40% off at checkout with the code Goldbridge by going through the link in the description or scanning the QR code next to me. If you're heading on your holiday, shorts, t-shirts like this, you can get it all. Absolutely fantastic. And as always, Boohoo Man have got a little bit of an interactive quiz for you because they're such a good sponsor. So who can guess who I'm talking about here? From these clues: I started my career at Sheffield United in 2011, playing 134 matches and scoring 9 goals. My official first name is Jacob, but I'm more commonly known by another name. I've played across 3 tiers of English football, League, and of course a few tiers as well. League One with Sheffield United, the Championship with Hull City, and the Premier League with 2 teams, including Manchester United. It's a little known fact, I actually got relegated twice in one season. Look that one up. And my transfer to Manchester United marked the most expensive defensive deal ever for the club, and arguably one of the worst deals that's ever been done. I didn't add that in. My career at United has yielded 1 major trophy so far, and up until this summer I was the captain of Manchester United. You've guessed it, it's Jacob Harry Maguire. There you go. Congratulations to everyone who corrected and guessed correctly with that one. Big thank you to Boohoo Man. Remember, you can get 40% off, a huge 40% off, when you use the code Goldbridge at checkout. Check Boohoo Man out, links in the description, or scan the QR code next to me. What you waiting for? What you waiting, what you waiting, what you waiting for? Jacob, there you go. Anyway, let's get into the show. We're going to start off. Look, I want to talk about this potential new deal for Jonny Evans. I think that would have been a very interesting place to start. But we have got a news story coming out in relation to the Glazers, so it would be remiss not to start with that. So I'll give you the direct quotes as we sort of go through it. So there's suspicion from at least one person close to the Man United takeover process that Avram and Joel Glazer have been disappointed with the offers made in terms of the valuation of the club. Now, we believe that those offers are somewhere between 5 and 5.5 billion. They always wanted 6 billion. And obviously, we haven't really heard anything for weeks and weeks, whereas probably it's fair to say from January to May, we were getting pretty regular updates with, you know, deadlines and final bids and all that. And we've not really heard anything for about 6, 7, 8 weeks now. Joel and Avram believe that the new TV deals being negotiated, the growth of football worldwide, and the new Champions League format will add value to Manchester United in the coming years. Very concerning, of course. We know they wanted a Super League. We know they don't want to go, and this could be a very good reason why they are actually stalling. A source close to one of the bids says, we've not been given any guidance at all on what comes next. There haven't been requests to modify the offers or come up with a new round of bids, as there were earlier in the process. There's just been no communication whatsoever of late. And as I said, it's almost like the Glazers have suddenly decided, let's see if everyone forgets we put the club up for sale, because it looks like they're just doing nothing at the moment, which is really surprising. And it goes on to say that the Manchester United sale process has been effectively paused. As far as at least one of the 2 main bidders are concerned, talk of an imminent decision doesn't seem to resonate with either bidder. So there we are. I mean, look, I mean, this is just sort of broken in the last few minutes, and we're sort of reacting to it as it is. Welcome to the Members Club, Elson. Definitely not Nanny, says Kieran. And if Glazer survive this, it's really on our fan base. I don't think we're doing everything we can to kick them out, says Shahin. Well, look, on that, I saw something today that there's planned protests for Wolves and Forest. Obviously, we're at home for the 2 of the first 3 games of the season. So the opportunity to protest at games will be there again, quite rightly. Organised by the 58. I think they're going to announce something tomorrow, which is fantastic and positive. And I think that in relation to match-going fans, that's really positive that continues. I think it's a really difficult time. And look, I only speak from experience and honesty here, and some people don't like it, but the bottom line is that when you're buying players, Glazer's out disappears. It always does. If you had a graph of Glazer out frustration, if United have had a good season, it won't really happen in May. But we don't really have many good seasons, so it normally peaks starts going really up around April, May. All the way through June when we don't buy players, it's Glazer's out, into July, Glazer's out. Oh, we bought some players, dip. Oh, and there's a new season. Dip, 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 dip. And that's what tends to happen. And then it will grow again as results go bad. Glazer out movements are dictated to by lack of transfers and poor performance on the pitch. What we need to do is make it consistent. I was Glazer's out when they won the Champions League in 2008. So was many other people. Like, Glazer out is something that you should be every day if you want change at your football club. I'm not dictated to by transfers, winning trophies, sacking managers. The Glazers need to go, but it's a challenge for this fan base to do that. A lot of people have bought shirts, that's up to them. A lot of people have bought season tickets, that's up to them. A lot of people are championing this transfer window, that's up to them. But the bottom line is the Glazers are still in charge. And you go back and you read what was said about they're disappointed about some of the offers. Like, if we go back to here, the Glazers are disappointed with the offers made in terms of the valuation of the club. Correct me if I'm wrong when I say this. So the Glazers are disappointed about some of the offers that have been put on the table. £5.5 billion. They're disappointed by that. Imagine that. Because I can give you an equivalent of this. This is like me having no money and asking somebody for money and they give me 5 billion and I go, I'm disappointed with that. When I've put absolutely nothing into this football club. They're disappointed with 5.5 billion. They've never spent a penny on it. Certainly, they haven't. They bought it on debt. They've not invested any money. They've taken dividends out. They've let the stadium rot. They're disappointed with £5 to £5.5 billion. They inherited it off their dad. And he didn't put any bloody money in anyway. They're acting like, oh, we built this city. We built it on rock and roll. They've done sod all to Manchester United. You know what? If they'd built it from like a second division club and built the stadium and won the trophies, I'd sort of understand their obsession of getting 6, 7, 8 billion. They've just been given a free meal ticket and they're still not happy. Swivel on it. Really do. Swivel on it. So look, of course the Glazer out movement must continue if you are Glazer out. So yeah, look, I think a lot more should be being done, but it's very difficult for people to get fans to do things when they're falling in love with apparently a good transfer window. And I tell you what will happen. The season will start. People will ignore the Glazer out movement. We'll get a load of bad results around Christmas time and people will want to be Glazer out again. How's about you just have that all the time until they go? You know, some people would even say, let's get games cancelled. Some people would say empty the stadium. I don't know whether these things are achievable. I don't know whether I agree with those things. But there has to be look, they've put the club up for sale. They've gone through a bidding process. They've got 2 people who want to buy the club and then they've just ignored them. They are amateurs. Absolute amateurs. You've got Sheikh Jazim, Jim Radcliffe just sat there. Proper business people. Both of them in the dark, like mushrooms, like the fans being fed on shit. And you know what? We shouldn't be in the dark. We need to come into the light and let them know there is no way back. We don't want you here. You can buy what you want. You can spin it as much as you want, but we don't want you here. And I think that, I mean, look, I really hope that more things do happen. If Glazers stay, we can get more mediocre signings like Jonny Evans. Qatar wouldn't sign these type of players. Dazzo, you're absolutely spot on. We're going to talk about Jonny Evans in a moment, but with all due respect to Jonny Evans, we sold prime Jonny Evans nearly 10 years ago, and we're now going to sign 35-year-old Jonny Evans on a year deal. It's not Jonny Evans' fault or Jenny Evans' fault. It's Glazer-nomics. This would not happen under Qatar. If Eric Ten Hag said, I want Jonny Evans for another year, they'd laugh at him. They'd say, why do you want Jonny Evans for a year? Who do you really want? Who's the player you'll get in a year when Jonny Evans goes? Oh, there's a centre-back at Benfica. Shut up about Jonny Evans then. I'll go and get you the Benfica centre-back. These are the things that would and should be happening at this football club. Because yet again, if the Glazers are going to stay, and they are at the moment, there is another Man United manager with at least one arm tied behind his back. Can you call my friend Davison a prat, says Kian. So, look, it's the same old. We buy a few players, the new season hype's there, and people sort of down tools in relation to Glazer out movement. I find that frustrating, but I have been saying to you, and a few others have been saying this for a while as well, the last few weeks, everybody's shut up about the Glazer out movement. Everyone's shut up about the sale, because they've all been thinking about, Onana and Mount and Rasmus and, we're going on tour, we're so excited. And people are just down tools. And if you tolerate this, then your children will be next. If you ignore evil, it will prosper. We shouldn't have ignored it. We shouldn't have gone quiet in the first place. So, look, the positive is the season is starting, and I'm not... All right, I was way ahead of the game with Rasmus Højlund. We had really good information. Fantastic. Okay, great, right? But I also said, and I haven't forgotten, I said there's no way the Glazers will be in charge for the Wolves game. And I said that in the middle of June. I said I don't know when the sale occurs, but there's no way they'll have the balls to be in charge for the first home game of the season against Wolves, because in the summer, it's hard to protest. It's hard to publicly do anything. But against Wolves, opening game of the season, Monday Night Football, they won't want to be in charge then, because if there's huge protests and everything, it brings the price of the club down. You can't sell a football club for 6, 7, 8 billion when the club is in turmoil and mutiny. So, look, I got that wrong. They don't really care. Billy Welch says, article last week saying US wanting Champions League and Premier League games in the US. 17 minutes and then going to the game isn't working while Beth is buying a Nana kit. 17 minutes and then going to the game isn't working while Beth is buying the Nana kit. I don't know what you're on about, Billy. Look, we can all individualise things. Adam got a bit of shit last week for wearing the away kit. But you know what? Adam's not a top red. Beth's not a top red. I'm not a top red. We're all football fans. We all make our own choices. There is no tier system here. There is no class system here. We're all Man United fans, and people do what they want to do. Who are you to judge? At the end of the day, there are people who will be protesting, who will go and sit and watch a game and won't even stay outside for 17 minutes. Does that make them a bad fan? It makes them somebody who wants to make their own choice. There'll be loads of people buying kits. And this is what I mean. A few transfers and we're being spun. Look, I said this to you last night. When you start agreeing that the summer transfer window is going well, look at the accounts that are telling you it and look at the information they've had over the last few weeks about when a deal's going to be done. And look at why you're jumping on that train and look at why they're jumping on that train. In whose interest is it to spin a positive out of this summer transfer window with the Glazers still here? The Glazers. The facilitators of the Glazers within the club might be feeding the information out, but maybe they want to keep their job. There's a lot of people in that football club who do good work, but there's a lot of people in that football club who want the Glazers to stay because they know they're out of a job if the Glazers go. They are facilitators, and the Glazers don't want to go at the moment, do they? So when you're sat there going, it's been a good transfer window, I'd give it an 8 or a 9, you've been brainwashed in my opinion. I don't see an 8 or 9 transfer window. We've not sold anybody of value yet. These aren't the players that Ten Hag actually wanted. He did want Harry Kane. He did want Kim Min-jae. So he hasn't got everything that he wanted that he probably would have got with Qatar. We are being spun around in the dishwasher because ultimately I think there's an offensive here. I think the Glazers are on an offensive to try and survive into the new season. And I tell you what, if the season starts and they get through this transfer window and we get into September, which we clearly are going to be because it's only a month away, we get into this new season, we get into September and they're still here. When do they go? Have you ever stopped and thought about when do they go? If they've survived a transfer window and the start of another season, when do they go? Because if we're being honest with ourselves, when they announced the sale in November, we all psychologically thought, well, by the transfer window, they're gone. By the end of this season, they're gone. And they're not. They're going to start another season. So, and maybe they'll do another year. And maybe they'll do another year. I don't know. We're going to chase those Glazers out of town, says Desiree. Thank you very much. So look, we are where we are. It is what it is. It's not a great situation, but they ain't in any rush to go. And I tell you what, I think the most compelling point about this is that they really don't give a shit about starting the season or the Wolves game or the Forest game. They don't care. They just don't care. And I think, as always, there needs to be a united approach amongst the fan base, and we don't always do that very well for whatever reason. But there does need to be, because the voice needs to be heard loud and clear that we're not going to have this. And look, I do my Talk Sports show during the season on a Saturday night, and I'll continue talking about it on national TV until they take me off. I will continue to shout and scream about this ownership and this treatment of this football club. And I think everybody has to do something to try and, express their dissatisfaction as well. Like the thing that bothers me the most is the summer we could have had. We should have had. And that's not just saying oil me up Qatar. As I've said, that's only because it's the only billionaire on offer. I'd have took Elon Musk. I'd have took Amazon. I'd have took Apple. I don't care. We need a billionaire to clear the debt and reset. And we should have had it this summer. And if we had had it, trust me, the summer transfer window would not be Højlund, Onana and Mount and not selling anybody. It would be a very different summer transfer window. We wouldn't be held to ransom by people like Harry Maguire, who Ten Hag was told to go, and he's going, I don't know whether I want to go. These things just wouldn't have happened under a brand new club with no debt. And that's what bothers me. Minority investment's going to ruin the takeover dream, says Lewis. And Mark, true fans that love the club are still Glazers out. The Glazer in brigade are the plastic fans that want shiny new players. Okay, Martin Saunders, thank you very much. Look, I observe, I might be wrong, but I said this to you last night. I've noticed over the last few weeks accounts that I normally follow and still do follow and like being very, very pro-United. And I'm like, there's a flip. Something's switched here. Who's talking to them? What are they offering them? Why are they saying these things? Why are they talking about a really good transfer window? Why are they talking about excitement and buzz and we're in a really good place as a football club? Have I missed the sale? No, I haven't. So why are these people changing? Literally, after the FA Cup final, they were saying something completely different. 3 obvious signings, no sales, a poor pre-season, and everything's great. It just looks like victims of spin to me. Discussing how powerful these leeches are, ownership should be subject to fan base consent. It should be mandatory for owners to have our support, says Delicate Official. Well, look, we've had our say on that. Maybe people will bring it back into the show. But what we were going to be talking about tonight, they're distracting us. So, of course they are. They're distracting us. Of course they are. What I was going to talk about tonight was this. And what it means for Harry Maguire, I suppose. So, this is what we're going to talk about. Northern Ireland International. Is he still playing for Northern Ireland? I don't know. Jonny Evans is understood to be close to earning a 1-year deal at Manchester United. Well, look, it wouldn't be a United stand show without a poll. Let's do it. Should Evans get a 1-year deal? Yes or no? It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. So it's coming in from the Belfast Telegraph. You'd expect, being Belfast and Northern Ireland, they might have some good information on what is actually going to go on. But that's the story at the moment, is that Jonny Evans will be offered a 1-year deal by Manchester United. And this is based on the fact that he's really impressed Eric Ten Hag in the short time that he's been at Manchester United. Now, Fabrizio's come out and said there hasn't been a decision yet made on Jonny Evans. All options are open with regards to that. But I mean, there's a few ways of looking at it, really, isn't there? I mean, what Kel says, please no. And why pay Evans when you've still got Maguire, says Ryan. Well, I'm somewhat bemused by this, if I'm being honest. And I like Jonny Evans. I do like Jonny Evans, but I watched him play for Leicester about 5 times last year, and I was like, yeah, he needs to probably retire or go to the lower leagues. The last place I expected him to be was at Manchester United. Now, obviously, he started at Man United, and there might be some sort of coaching role that they're looking at. So you've got to be very careful about the reasons behind it and his experience. But ultimately, I don't agree with giving ex-players coaching roles anyway. I think we should be recruiting the best before we start doing that. But maybe that's what they're looking at doing. I also disagree, and this might shock a few people. I don't think Jonny Evans is better than Harry Maguire. So I know it's easy to take a pop at Harry because I think he should be sold, but I don't think he's better than Harry Maguire. I really don't. And therefore, and I also think he's quite similar to Harry Maguire in relation to mobility and playing out from the back. So I don't understand it, if I'm being completely honest. I don't understand it. But let's get some of your thoughts on it. So we've got Glazers are like the dentist distracting us while they stick the needle in. Glazers out, says Mark Sewell. Also, Peter says, Mark, you're spot on. The Glazers are all smoke and mirrors. They make a noise so fans look, and while the fans look, e.g. transfers, then the Glazers do something different, no sale. Evans deal predictable as they come. Selling Donny before players like Fred, McTominay and co is a joke as well, says Alan Carroll. Evans is the cheap option. It's an excuse not to buy a quality centre-back, says TJ. Well, look, it doesn't make sense to me. And I think there'll be a lot of people who say it's a good move. He knows the club. He's an experienced centre-back. And I like Jonny Evans. So, look, this is not coming from a place of he's crap. This is coming from a place of confusion. If we do this and we keep Harry Maguire, then it makes no sense to me. Because we want to play a certain way out the back. Martinez can do it. Varane can do it. Lindelof can do it. Maguire struggles with it. And Jonny Evans is like Maguire. So you've got two centre-backs that are quite similar and don't really suit the way we want to play. So I don't understand why you keep Harry Maguire and have Jonny Evans. Is Jonny Evans going to mean that Harry Maguire goes? Could that be what it means? I don't know. But what I ultimately do agree with is the previous comment that this is a cheap option instead of Kim Min-jae or Disasi. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like Ten Hag's been told you're not getting a centre-back, and that may be what's going to happen. So I'll have to see what happens with regards to what Fabrizio said. But to me, it looks like a really cheap way of having a fourth centre-back and selling Harry Maguire. But I'll go back to what I said a couple of minutes ago. I saw Jonny Evans last season when Leicester got relegated, and I thought it's time for him to retire or go down the league. I would not be thinking about Jonny Evans playing in the Champions League or for Manchester United this season. I don't think he's there. I don't think he looked that good in pre-season either. So I don't know. I find it odd. But look, who knows what the reasons are. Mark, in your honest opinion, do you think we are going to sell both the club and Maguire before the season starts? No, Brian. Lee, welcome to the Members Club. The United share price is dropping like a rock and is down to $20.90, says Nigel Flynn. Thank you, Nigel. No, I don't actually think Harry Maguire will leave, and I certainly don't think we're going to be sold before the end of the transfer window. The share price, by the way, reflects the excitement and prospect of a sale. We've seen it go up to $26 a few weeks ago when that leak came out that Qatar wanted to get an exclusivity and get on with it, and we'll see it drop now because the Glazers are looking not to sell at the moment. Should Evans get a one-year deal? We've had nearly 5,000 votes. 36% say yes and 64% say no. And I would imagine that most people really agree with me on this. It's not really a reflection that Jonny Evans is a bad centre-back. I think Jonny Evans 4 or 5 years ago would have been an interesting fourth choice centre-back. But at 35 years of age, no, it's a no from me. If we really want to change, stop going to games, says Runa. And Ten Hag is not going to waste his career on a club with no ambition, says Alan Carroll. Well, look, I said that yesterday. There's no way that Erik Ten Hag is going to be happy. And he clearly made it obvious that he's not happy with all of the investment that's going on with Manchester United at the moment. So there we go. Who will leave first, the Glazers or Maguire? Look, I don't know why you're saying that. There's more chance of Harry Maguire going in the next few weeks than there is the Glazers. It might just be to force Harry out the door, so even with injuries, he wouldn't get in, says Super Brown. Well, look, that's the first thing I thought. I thought when I had read this about Jonny Evans, what does that say for Harry Maguire? And I think Ten Hag is privately, and I don't want to say too much, because Eric Ten Hag will sit there and say Ronaldo's for part of his plans, and then Ronaldo will be gone. Eric Ten Hag will sit there and say that David De Gea is part of his plans, and then 2 months later he'll be gone. He's already said it about Harry Maguire, and yet we know he's took him in the office and took his captaincy off him and won't let him even be reserve captain. So I think Ten Hag wants rid of Harry Maguire, and maybe the Jonny Evans thing is a tactic in doing that. But I will sit here and say right now, I don't think Jonny Evans is better than Harry Maguire. I don't. And I know why people will say he is, but I genuinely don't. I don't think he is. And that doesn't mean I want to keep Harry Maguire. I want to sell Harry Maguire. But I don't think Jonny Evans is better than him. I don't think we should sign Jonny Evans either. If the Glazers don't sell, could they get in trouble for possible stock market manipulation, says Johnny? I mean, they've got to take investment in. I mean, it's a good question, Johnny, because clearly at the moment they're disappointed and they're not selling, but they have to do something. Like, I said this a year ago. I said that they will sell at some point in the future because of 2 words: Old Trafford. They've got to do something with Old Trafford, and they haven't got the money. So I was saying last summer, the protests are great, the online frustration is great, but it won't be those that get rid of the Glazers. The protests would never get rid of the Glazers. If they had the money, they wouldn't go. They'd just sit in America and ignore it. The reason that they have put this club up for sale is because they need investment. They need money. They can't and do not want to spend their own money on renovating Old Trafford. They've never spent any of their own money, and they certainly don't want to start doing it now. That still needs doing. Like, the Old Trafford is getting worse by the month. It needs money spending on it. So it's always a good point to consider. The frustration with the Glazers not selling, I get it. I'm frustrated. But they have to do something. Of course, there is an option that will probably make people protest more than they would at the moment. And that is private investment from some soulless investment firm, probably from the States, that gives them the money to build the stadium. But they will have to do something. Did the Glazers ever intend on selling, or was this always a distraction, says Philip Brownie? Philip Bonney. Parasites, he says. And you're right, Mark, we need to keep up kicking a fuss about this, as the only way is to affect their greed, reputation, and make the club less valuable, says Martin. The Glazers are making this club a joke. They're just laughing at the fans, says Tracy Taylor. And Alan Carroll Welker, thank you very much for your super chat. Ward Prowse going to West Ham, buying Harry or Scott, says Ross McRae. They won't be buying both of them. I don't think McTominay's going. I really don't. Maguire might go, but I don't think McTominay's going to go. I think that's a shame. I think it's a shame for him as well. I don't think he'll get a lot of game time next season, and when we sell him, we won't get the price that we should have got this summer. This summer was the time to sell Scott McTominay. If you want 30 to 40 million pounds for Scott McTominay, you already want too much anyway. But if you think you can get that, you're never going to get it next year. He's going to be 28 next year. Like, we're not going to get that. Now was the time to sell him. So if we keep McTominay, we bloody better hope he does something that he hasn't done for 7 years and turn into a Man United player, because I can't believe we turn our back on 30 to 35 million for Scott McTominay this summer. I really don't get why we wouldn't do it, but obviously we're not going to take it. Do you think the Glazers will use Greenwood to return to focus away from them not selling, says Tom? Look, we all know how Man United works under the Glazers. We all know they employ people to manipulate fan emotions. This happens in politics, doesn't it? You release a story about something else to distract from the thing that would cause you problem. I mean, it's been going on for years. Certain political parties will know there's something bad coming out about them or one of their MPs, and a story will come out about something else and distract from that story. Diversion tactics. I don't know. I wouldn't put in anything past United under the Glazers. Kilo says, where'd all the people go that were giving you grief for United not spending the 200 million like you said they would? Thanks for the laughs as always, says Kilo. But this is the thing. You get clipped up a month ago, and people take the piss and are vile, and you say to people, you can't judge me till August the 31st, and then you get to the start of August and we're basically going to spend 200 million, it's obvious, and those people go quiet because basically they just want to hate on you and they want to try and create a buzz on the hate. But we will spend 200 million. We're always going to spend 200 million. Welcome to the Members Club, Joe Reader, thank you. And also we've had another super chat from Mike Calvert. He says Qatar should put in the 5.25 billion and Sir Jim clear the debt and contribute another billion to secure 25% stake and get those leeches out, says Mike. But I disagree with that. I find this sort of argument really annoying. These people who say, well, if Qatar want the club, they should give the Glazers 7 billion and get out and kick them out. But have you ever thought that they're business people? Why should they overpay for something that's not worth it to please you? Why should they overpay for something that's not worth it to give the Glazers what they want? These are business people that want to operate in the business world all around the world for years to come. If they overpay on Man United, the next deal Qatar want to do, and I'm not talking sport, it could be anything. It could be acquisition of a brand in America. Who knows? They'll go, well, they overpaid for that. Let's do it. They're business people. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Sheikh Jassim, they should not overpay for something that it's not worth. They shouldn't do that. They should drive the price down to a price that they want. I don't have any issue with that. And I've seen plenty of United fans over the last 6 months say they should just pay the 6 billion, they can afford it. That's not how business works, and it has a domino effect on other things. And also, why I mean, as I say, how can the Glazers be disappointed about 5 billion? You've never spent a bloody penny. If I buy a restaurant for 2 million and I work really hard to make it useful and someone wants to give me 2.2 million for it, I'm like, piss off. I want more than 200 grand profit, thank you. But the Glazers literally start from zero. There is only profit. It's 5 billion profit for them. Literally 5 billion profit. They're not even clearing the debt on the way out. And I think that's what Qatar have tried to say, because people keep saying, why did Qatar keep including the debt in the deal? Why would the Glazers care about that? Because they're intelligent people trying to buy the football club. They're like, we'll give you 5 billion and some of that money is to clear the debt. Because you put the debt on the club. It's not the club's debt. That 600 million that is in debt is not the club's debt. It's the Glazers' debt. They've put nothing in. Nothing in. And they're moaning about the profit they're going to make. Even a tenner is profit for them because you've spent nothing on it. Mark, the Glazers have been making me sick to my stomach this year in particular. Whatever happened to wrapping up in February? Well, it was never going to happen, Isaiah, was it? And Jamie says, without exaggerating, I can see the Glazer situation becoming dangerous with true United fans, especially with the passion. I can honestly see this turning into death threats the longer it goes on, says Jamie. Well, I hope it doesn't go down that route. I really don't. Nobody wants to see that, of course. And, I think every United fan, it reflects on us badly if it goes down that sort of a route. And that's why every Man United fan I've heard or read or seen in relation to protests or anything are very adamant that it's a peaceful protest, because we don't want to go down to anybody else's level. We don't need to do that. There are ways and means of publicly expressing your dissatisfaction without doing that sort of thing. At the end of the day, I don't like the Glazers because of how they've run Manchester United, but they are human beings, and that, we don't need to go down the violent or death threats route. And I don't think that will happen. I don't think that will happen. This is football at the end of the day. Football's very important to us, and there are ways that this fan base can make them know that we don't want them here anymore. I don't think we've done some of those things yet. I really don't. I think a lot more could be done around many different areas, but everybody's got to be on the same page to do that. I mean, to be honest, the most ridiculous, and I will call it ridiculous, thing I've ever seen and heard is empty the stadium. I mean, that is mission impossible. We need to get Tom Cruise on board for that, because it's impossible to empty that stadium. If you've ever been to Manchester United on a match day, it's not even the same 75,000 people there every week, and that would be difficult persuading them to miss one game. but it's such a transient match day experience. Like, there'll be people who will be literally, there'll be a good proportion of people at every game who it's their first time at Old Trafford who are literally, there will be some people, look, who aren't even United fans, who actually are tourists. And I know there's this derogatory term that if you're a foreign fan coming to Old Trafford, you're a tourist. That's bullshit. There genuinely are people at games, we've all seen them, who are tourists. They're not necessarily Man United fans, they're just there to watch a game of football at Old Trafford. So emptying the stadium is ridiculously hard to do. Mark, your inside scoop to Højlund was just Fabrizio. He called it in March. Stop acting like you have the scoop. Fabrizio is all our scoops, is Alex. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Alex? Do you not see who follows me on Instagram? It ain't Fabrizio, it's Rasmus Højlund. What are you talking about? Mojo, 20 United Stand memberships, thank you very much. And even, can I just say, even if it was Fabrizio, it still sits you down, Alex, because apparently I haven't got any sources. So Fabrizio Romano is my source, who comes on the show every couple of weeks. He's probably the #1 transfer expert in the world. So you lose either way, mate. Congratulations for having me for 12 months. I believe fans protesting the business outside the club Glazers are sponsored with is the solution, says FaZe. United's pace is ancient in this window. United's pace is ancient in the window. The problem is it delays other teams who move on. Missed opportunities snowball into more. We need to see change, says Jacob Hawkes. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you very much. Look, I'm not going to repeat myself here. Off topic, but you was right about the hedge trimmer, Mark. It's awesome purchase. I always use United Stand discount codes, says Glenny Boy. Told you. I big up to Mojo, by the way, with his 20 memberships. Absolute legend. Sort of missed that as we went through those chats. Alex is back again. He just admitted to not having sources. Can we get help for Alex Brannaman? He's done a super chat exposing himself as a prat, and now he's saying Goldbridge has just admitted to not having sources. What are you talking about? What I don't. Can we get some help for him? I don't know what he's talking about. Like, I've literally just told you 2 major sources around the Højlund deal. Do you not know what a source is? It's somebody who gives you information, mate. What do you think it is? Get to bed, Alex. Love Island's on in 20 minutes. Actually, I don't think it is anymore. He's gone, don't worry. If you had a better director of football, you would spend that 200 million better on more players. Look at Liverpool. We spent 95 million on the same amount as you for good players as Nathan. Look, what I'm about to say here is very much opinion, and people will have different opinion, of course. It's not a good transfer window. It's not a good transfer window, in my opinion. And do you know why? I like Mason Mounts, I really like Onana, and I'm over the moon about Rasmus Højlund. So 3 good players have been brought into this football club. But I said this weeks ago. This summer transfer window, the success of it will be dictated to by sales. We've only sold Alanga, really. And the great thing about that is Alanga wasn't really a player we were expecting to sell. Fred is still here. Donny is still here. Dean Henderson is still here. Brandon Williams is still here. Scott McTominay is still here. Harry Maguire is still here. Like, we have... Eric Bailly, I think, is still here. So, I was going to judge this summer transfer window on sales because I know we've got to sell to buy. And I'm like, the sale process has been shit. And apparently Forest do want Dean Henderson, but that price is coming down all the time. We were talking about 25 to 30 million. Apparently it could be 15. Fred, we should be getting at least 20. There's talk of 11. So Anthony Martial's another one, yeah. So Brian Robson says Murta Madness, but the Murta Madness thing, where is it coming from? It's coming from a select few accounts who've weirdly changed their tune in the last few weeks, and probably the club as well. I think we bought well, but Onana to Man United, shock horror, we spent 45 million. Mount to Man United, shock horror, we spent 55. Rasmus Højlund to Manchester United, shock horror, we've spent, 60 million. These are not cheap deals. We've bought players that are good for market value. Some would say a little bit over market value. So we needed to buy players. We bought some players. The sales, that's where you're judged as a football club. I mean, look at some of the business Chelsea have done this summer. Banned for calling you out on lies is crazy, says A. I don't know what's going on. You can go as well. No, you're getting blocked for just trying to ruin a show, basically. And actually, most of the chat said to get rid of Alex because he's talking shit. And so are you. So you will get blocked. It's a community. We listen to the chat mates, and most of the people wanted him gone, so he went because he's just ruining the flow of a good show, and it won't descend into some minority prats talking shit about something you shouldn't be watching in the first place because it's way above your intelligence level. Mark, you always said we would get Rasmus Højlund, says Anthony. Yeah, well, that's what a proper source is all about, isn't it? This transfer window reminds me of Mourinho and Van Gaal days when we signed a few players. I thought we could have kicked season until injuries kicked in, says Chance. And Nathan Allen says, that's what I mean by a better director of football, because City and Liverpool's would sell them players in seconds, as we did with Fabinho and Hendo, and City with theirs, says Nathan. Well, look, in the case of Fred, apparently he's going to go to Galatasaray, and yet Saudi Arabia want him, and we'd get more money out of that. Look, I'm excited about the start to the season. I'm excited about some of the signings we've made, but I think it's going to be very, very difficult for Erik ten Hag this season, and he's going to have to produce another miracle. Red Devil Ronnie says, is it possible that Old Trafford could potentially be deemed as unsafe for spectators in the near future? Just how bad is it? Big up as always, says Red Devil Ronnie. No, I don't think we're at that point, but it's got a lot of leaks. It needs a lot of work. It's slowly rusting. It's fit for purpose. It's just old. Alan says, screw the haters, Mark. Appreciate you delivering top-notch content every day. Please don't retire anytime soon, says Alan. Thank you very much for the support. It's always nice to get a nice comment. Mount will be a flop, sad to say, says AK. Mate, nobody's a flop until the season starts. We overhype pre-season. Pre-season's exciting. Pre-season isn't a waste of time, but a new signing doesn't make their... Anana's not made his debut yet. Mason Mount's not made his debut. That's Wolves. His first game's against Wolves. Like, Mason Mount could play shit every pre-season game. Maybe some people think he has. But if he scores or makes a goal against Wolves, then that's when it really counts. Did we ever talk about Ethan Laird being sold for only $1 million back in July, says Gull? No, we didn't. But, realistically, I thought we might have got a little bit more for him. And Phil says, sadly, we need to get some matches postponed and points deduction for long-term game. This will frighten them and the value, says Phil. You sort of took me down a topic I didn't want to talk about, but it's well known. It's very well known in the club and outside of the club that the Liverpool game that got postponed really rocked the club. They were terrified by that. And of course, fans were on the pitch. They broke into the ground. And you don't want to see that. But it did. And it's known amongst the protest organisers. It's known amongst other fan groups. That really did make the Glazers sit up and take notice, because when games are getting cancelled, it makes big news and it damages the club. The downside of it is that it can come across as hooliganism. It can come across as violent, and that reflects badly on the fans. And on a more judicial point of view, it will lead to points deductions, and it will need to mean to ramifications. Now, some people would say I don't care. It's easy to say you don't care when the season's not even kicked off. When you miss out on the Champions League by 6 points, people start to care a little bit more. And look, I don't like to sit on the fence. If somebody said to me, would you like to see 4 or 5 United games get postponed and the Glazers are gone by Christmas? I probably would. Because if that's the only way to get rid of them, I would do it. But I said after the Super League, if we go into the Super League, I won't support Man United anymore. I said I'd rather we went down to the National League than go in the Super League. I don't want to be in the Super League, and I don't. Would I get relegated to get rid of the Glazers? well, I don't think we need to do that. I don't think that should happen, but I'd certainly think it through, because I think it's that important. I think it's that important. I wouldn't get relegated so that Sir Jim could come and work with the Glazers, because that's not getting rid of the Glazers. I mean, I'm talking about debt gone, the right ownership. I probably would consider relegation for 1 year because we'd bounce back. And I know a lot of United fans that were there when United genuinely got relegated in the 70s, and they said, actually, it was a really enjoyable season. Obviously, you don't want to be in that league, but it was enjoyable. So, look, we're hypothetically talking about something here, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the appetite is in the fan base, and it's a shame there's not more of a unified voice, because I think it gets very competitive and aggressive and accusationary when realistically, we should be better organised. We should be. Love the show. Always watch with a tea cape, says Majestic. Sounds lovely. United's have done that from Jacob as well. CF Cash, thank you very much for your super chat there. And need to relegate the Glazers, says Eugene. And we are handcuffed as a club. Can't do anything with them goblins. Thank you very much. And that was from AK, who's a member. JT says, I'd be up for that 100%. And fans should start posting lots of pictures of a rusting Old Trafford, flooding everywhere. We should show the world what's happening there, says Michael's Playhouse. And look, it's difficult, because what can you do? What you're going to do? Well, thinking about the Glazers, but think about the Premier League. Think about UEFA. Do they know, or do they care about United fans and the Glazers? No. And sometimes you've got to do things. Look at the Super League. All fans came together and made the government of the UK get involved. Now, if you want the Glazers out, and you need people to take notice. And if you want people to take notice, then you've got to think big. Which is why I think we've sort of just, I get it. I think people have just gone, they're going to sell. They're going to sell. What's the point? They're going to sell at some point. And I get that. I think we all get that. It's felt like they were going to sell. And now it's feeling like they might not sell. So you can sort of see why, as a fan base, we've sort of let it drift. But the season's about to start again. The transfer window is going to close again, and they're going to still be in charge. And I just don't think fans will, and I don't think fans should let that lie and just put up with it. So there needs to be big plans, and I'd be looking at the Super League and what fans did for the Super League, because you've got to make the headlines. You've got to make people sit up and listen. And look, if every United game didn't get played at home for the first 10 games of the season, there'd be huge problems. But it'd be very hard to do it, because United aren't stupid. They'll get police there, they'll get security there, and then to get through those lines, you've almost got to be hooligans to do it, and then that becomes problematic. So it's not as simple as emptying the stadium. It's not as simple as postponing games. These are very, very difficult and dangerous things to do. Came across a story about Matteo Kovar being linked to Villa. Would you take 10 million for him, says Kens? Probably would, with a buyback clause, yeah. Praying that the Leeds rumours regarding Brandon Williams are true. It's been clear for years that he isn't anywhere near good enough, says Dewey. Yeah, I saw that. Be a bit of a weird move to go to Leeds, but the fact that there's interest in him is a good thing. Mark, sorry to divert the chat, but can you say a few words on pundits' comments about Onana apparently bullying Maguire? Certain agenda at play, says JS. I've spoken about it a few times. I can't believe it's still a topic of conversation. I've seen goalkeepers shouting at defenders for over 30 years. It's the first time in 30 years I've seen it called bullying, because he's doing it to an English centre-back. And that's all it is. It's just complete and utter Brexit bullshit. Let's reignite United. Thank you. Welcome to Members Club. The new Adidas deals let the Glazers know they can continue operating this way, and the club will still attract top-tier corporate sponsors, says Josh. And, well, the Adidas deal's really interesting, right? I'm going to throw this in very quickly. The Adidas. Let me just read these super chats and then I'll do it. Mark, love the United stand. You and the team are great. Don't always agree with you, but that's spot on, John. You're not meant to agree with us all the time. My friend died yesterday in a motorcycle crash. United stand has been helping me with this news. This is King. Very, 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 very sad to hear that, King. And I'm sure you'll get some support and love in the chat as well. Life is a cruel lesson to learn sometimes, and there's nothing I can say that is going to make that any better. You've got to grieve, you've got to work through it, and every minute can feel like an hour in those situations, but it will get better. But right here, right now, and I know what you're going through, and it's really, really hard. So I'm glad that you can find something that doesn't take your mind off it, that just makes you feel part of something, and I'm sure you'll get some support in the chat. Horrible to hear that. Ed says maybe the Glazers don't want to sell the club because Sir Jim is still in the race, says Ed. You know what? The Adidas deal. I want to say this. The Adidas deal, right? 10-year deal. 900 million quid. What do you think about that if you're Qatar? I'd be like, why the fuck are you doing a 10-year shirt deal when this club's up for sale? What the hell are you doing? Why are you doing that deal? You're meant to be selling this club and you've just committed to us as to a 10-year shirt deal. Well, it's the best shirt deal ever. Well, I think we could have got more. So it is a bit weird. Now, some people will say you're talking bollocks, Goldbridge, because that's an amazing deal and anybody who's buying the club would be very, very happy with it. But they won't be consulted on it. Qatar won't be consulted on that. That is Richard Arnold, the Glazers. That is their deal. And I just, there's a few things that I've just found really weird over the last few months. We've been recruiting people into key positions, and now we've just gone and done a big shirt deal for 10 years when the club's meant to be up for sale. These things shouldn't be happening if there's an imminent sale coming in. These are not normal things. Going back to selling a restaurant, you don't go and get your kitchen fitted out when you're selling something because the new owner might not be sure about it. So there is some weird stuff going on. It might not mean much. It could mean everything. But United have been carrying on business as normal and doing big deals as normal. Getting games called off at least make Glazers come out and say something. They don't even communicate with the fans, says Dazzo. And Toxic Brown says, hi Mark, it's my birthday today and I've been watching the channel for a while now. I don't always agree with your opinion, but that's the fun part about it. Keep up the great work. Well, happy birthday to you. I hope you have a fantastic day, mate. Thank you very much. 90 million a year is nothing. 90 million barely pays for Rasmus, says Sakin. Look, I'm no businessman in relation to shirt deals, but I don't even think it will be a good deal. You do a 10-year deal now for 90 million a year, and in 3 years' time, Man City do a 5-year deal at 100 million a year. And then in 5 years' time, they do one at 120 million a year. We're still rolling on with 90 million a year. This is what normally happens. So I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, not too sure about that. But look, it's all about opinion. It's all about opinion. It's a big deal, but it's only a big deal until someone else does it. Real Sociedad have approached Manchester United today for Donny van der Beek. First formal contact between the clubs. Clubs now discussing formula in terms of deal. It depends on conditions decided by United, says Fabrizio. On Donny van der Beek, who we thought wasn't going to Real Sociedad, who might well be going to Sociedad now. So let's see what happens with that. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. And don't forget to check out Boohoo Man. Really good show again. The last two 8 o'clock shows have been fantastic. I'm going for a Guinness in the Fowlers, says Alan Noonan. He's enjoyed the show as well. Lovely. Sounds great. I'd love to be going for a Guinness, but I'm on antibiotics because of the drilled holes in my mouth, so I can't drink for a week, which is a shame, but there we go. Take care, everyone. Don't forget to check out Boohoo Man. Loved the show tonight. Back again in the morning, and you're legends. Absolutely loved that show tonight, and I'll speak to you in a bit.